Hi everyone, and welcome to Andy's Treasure Trove once again. This is episode 20, and I'm your host, Andy Moore. You know, I started this podcast in 2008 because I realized that I know a whole lot of interesting people, especially in art, music, cinema, literature, and comedy. Some of them are famous, some not, but they all have interesting stories to tell, and I love recording conversations with them and then sharing them with you. I've got lots of recorded interviews in my archive just waiting to be edited and presented to you, and there are always lots of fascinating new people to meet, especially when you move to a new state as I just have. I'm speaking to you now from my new home in Tucson, Arizona. After 40 years in San Francisco, my partner Jack and I have started a new chapter of our lives in the Sonoran Desert of southern Arizona. More on that in future episodes. Something else that's new is the music at the beginning of the show, recorded from a very old music box that belongs to a dear friend of mine here in Tucson. Let me know what you think of it as an opening theme. I'm also very proud to announce that I have a brand new website that I'd love for you to explore at andystreasuretrove.com. It has some new photos and videos for you to peruse, as well as some of the films I made in the 60s, 70s, 80s, and 90s, and a whole lot of videos that I've made since. This episode of Andy's Treasure Trove is shorter than most of them. It's only about 20 minutes long, and it features two great fans of my podcast, Peter and Kath Hart from London. When my family and I were in London a few years ago, we spent a very pleasant day with them, and then I presented them with some Andy's Treasure Trove t-shirts and recorded a short interview with Peter about things that he'd mentioned during the day, including stories about his grandfather's experiences in the British film industry and the small village of South Ascot where he grew up. Peter also tells us about some British condiments that you might want to seek out and try. Kath chimes in at the end, and we parted company with warmth in our hearts and some insights into England that only real Brits could provide. Let's listen now.
This is Peter Hart, and I'm on Andy's Treasure Trove.
Yes, Peter Hart, you are on Andy's Treasure Trove, and we're in London, England. And you and your wife have just taken us around some of the British hot spots. What was that phrase you used earlier about it's not half hot?
Oh, it ain't half hot, mum. Translated, it means it isn't half hot, mum.
And today it's a little muggy, so I would say it is half hot.
It is very hot, yeah. For me, not for you, I know, because you can take the heat, but we can't here. For us, this is a heat wave.
Now, you were telling me some interesting stories, among them your grandfather's activity in the British film industry. And tell me a little bit about that.
Well, after the First World War, grandfather came back. He was in the veterinary corps in the First World War and just saw too much slaughter of animals and things like this. And he just didn't want to be a vet anymore. So through friends and a relative, he got into the British film industry in the silent days and early sound. And this went right through to the 50s, and he was involved in all kinds of different films. Once I mentioned the Lavender Hill Mob, Whiskey Galore, Lady Killers, and all those. And one in particular, the London Belongs to Me film, which was Dickie Attenborough was starring, and they needed a Austin 12 motor car, black motor car. I think all cars were black then anyway, and they wanted one. And overnight he acquired one, and that started his career not just as a rigger in films, but also as a prop provider, which apparently was quite lucrative for him. And he hired the vehicle for the rest of the film to them, and he went on and did that with rigging, and he also did providing different props for different films. He used to find out what the film was before he went on the film, and then craftily went round buying up goods and things that he could rent out, always on the eye for the profit. Yeah, he had a very long career in the films.
And you mentioned he played a very crucial role in the Noel Coward film In Which We Serve.
It was, yes. He was in the tank. One of the frigate was being tossed around in a storm, he was in the tank, because it was a scaled-down model, in his waders with other crew members, rocking the boat and pushing it forward. And he would spoil his 5 daughters' career going to the movies by coming back. Oh no, I know how that was done. We used to do this and that. And so he totally spoilt the experience of going to the film by telling them, especially about one in particular. I don't know if I should mention this. Perhaps you might edit this out. Alan Ladd was over filming, and they had to dig a trench for him, so that he could walk along, or he would go up on a platform. There was always adjustments made because of his height, and he had many stories about Alan Ladd. Some he didn't always tell us because they were a bit naughty, but yeah, he had some good stories.
Speaking of naughtiness, you said that you were a naughty boy.
Did I?
You did.
Oh, the policeman. Yes. We were talking about the police in our local village, and it used to be Sergeant Adams. And he ruled our village from his allotment, which is a place where they grow the vegetables. As a group of you would do it. And you would find his sergeant's coat hung over an implement, a fork or something in the garden. And there he would be, big man in his braces. And he knew what was going on in the village. And if he turned up at your doorstep and he wanted to see you, and your mother and father opened the door, your mother and father knew, because he was a fair man, whatever he was going to do, you deserved it. And he would come to the door, and it was about scrumping, which is stealing apples from someone's orchard when you shouldn't be, even though they were windfalls. They weren't going to last long, were they? But anyway, so we got there. He opened the door. My father opened the door, and he said, "I'd like to speak to young Peter." And I came to the door, and he said, "Was that you?" Blah, blah, blah. I said, "Yes." He clipped me round the ear. Now, today that wouldn't happen, because your father would hopefully spring to your defence. But no, as soon as I shut the door, he walked away. That was it. No more reports, nothing done. My father clipped my ear as well, saying I deserved it. And that's how Sergeant Adams ruled our little village of South Ascot.
And you said that he wasn't disliked. He was well respected.
No, he was very well respected in the village. He used to deal with everything. It was only him. I think the village was a better place for it. Yeah.
Earlier today we were talking about movie westerns, and that seems like an example of frontier justice.
Yes, I would totally agree with that. You could not get away with it today, could you? No way. No, the Liberals will be out and all over you.
Now, you also told me a very interesting story about one of your friends or relatives who lost an arm in the war.
Gavin. Gavin Fairfax was a sports car racing driver. And after the war, he and my father teamed up. My father was his racing engineer. And Gavin had an accident and lost an arm. So he couldn't drive race cars anymore. But he and my father opened up a garage called Gavin Fairfax Limited in Virginia Waters and sold some pretty nice cars and etc. Anyway, Gavin, as usual, couldn't cope much with being pinned down at any one place. So he went out to live with his I think it was his brother in Australia. And if you've got to remember that the brother was on a sheep farm in the middle of Australia. There was nothing, just scrub, on one tree in hundreds of square miles. And Gavin, out for a ride in his car with one-handed on the farm, collided with that tree, and yes, you guessed it, he lost his other arm. So that's Gavin Fairfax for you.
Now, we're all tittering because this man lost his second arm, but I think we should be more solemn.
But Gavin wouldn't have. He hit the only tree. I mean, that was his career as a racing driver as well. If it would go wrong, it went wrong for Gavin. Yeah, that's why he's not known, and most likely nobody knows anything about him. That's it. But he was a lovely man.
Now, where do you live now, and where are you planning to move to?
Well, we live in a little place called Walton-on-Thames, just outside of London, about half an hour on a train, very near to Hampton Court Palace, which is where Edward VIII and Henry, corrected by my wife, and Henry VIII, William and Mary, It was Wolsey's place first, and Cardinal Wolsey, gave it to Henry to keep himself in with the old boy. It didn't work because he still lost his head, but there you go. It's a beautiful palace. It's been added to by William and Mary and others over the years, and we live very close to there, and we deem ourselves very fortunate to live there. But all the children have moved, dispersed, Australia, Germany, Edinburgh, Bristol, Bracknell. We've decided to disperse ourselves and move back out into the country, and hopefully on our return trip from Australia this summer we're going to relocate in Wiltshire, hopefully North Wiltshire. It's just far enough away from the city, in a beautiful countryside of North Wiltshire, which is full of history. The Ridgeway, the Battle of Roundway, and all those, the Roundheads and the Cavaliers. It's a fantastic area.
I should say that we met because you found my podcast on iTunes. Yes. You were doing some research on Christopher Isherwood, and you found my interview with Don Bacardi. And not only did you find it and listen, but you let me know that you existed. And here we are in person.
I know, it's incredible, isn't it?
It's wonderful.
Science annihilates distance, doesn't it, really? I think that wasn't Christopher Isherwood. It was someone else. I believe in you hear something good. There's always people moaning about things are bad and things like that. When you hear something really good, which the podcasts are, it's nice to say you enjoyed them and hopefully spread the word. Just feel a bit that people they're missing out. Because some of them are just brilliant. The last one, Bob and Ray, that was brilliant. I love that program. And you get introduced to all these new things, don't you? So if you don't do that, you don't listen to your type of podcast or anything like that. You just remain in a narrow field, don't you? You don't expand. I think it's brilliant. I love it.
Well, thank you so much. Now, like many people that I interview, you are an artist yourself.
Of sorts, yes. I'm an amateur, really. Over the years, I've always painted though, from as young as I can remember. It's been art through school. Always first at school with art, but I always drew in a very particular manner, precise manner. And as I said before, I just changed to a different style, a figurative, expressionist, stroke abstract, and that's from American artists who I accidentally again found online, Mel McCuddin, and I think he's brilliant, and his YouTube podcast show on how, I think it lasts about 7 minutes, on how he produces his work is extraordinary. Anyone out there, go on YouTube. If you're an artist and you want to know different direction, just watch that video, and it'll lead you in different directions. It has done for me, and I'm enjoying it very much. Yeah. And
you mentioned you found a community of artists on Flickr who would comment on each other's art in a mostly constructive way.
Yeah, Flickr. Because I left school and then went to the army and finally the fire service and everything, I only ever really did art as an adult education. My biggest art education has come from Flickr. It's been brilliant. The people there, the other artists are very generous with their comments. Most of them, I would say 99%, are actually really constructive and want to help you. Some of them are, like me, just amateurs. Most of them are professional, mostly Americans and Europeans, but mostly in America, and they'll quite happily tell you, give you advice, whether you want it or not. That's the thing. If you go on and you put your work on there, you've got to be able to take it. But you get the opportunity to give it as well, because they put their work on and you're able to comment on their work. And it's been a great experience. If any of them are listening, thanks very much for helping me.
We just had lunch in a pub and talked about many things, including a few of the food items that you thought we should know about. And would you mind talking about that again?
No. Marmite. If no one has ever tasted Marmite, you must really, really get down to your nearest English store and buy some Marmite. You'll either hate it or you love it and become addicted to it and can't live without it. The Marmite is a yeasty extract spread that goes on best on toast, which is a lovely treat. Bovril is another one. Bovril is a beef extract, which is mainly used in stews, to flavour stews, but also as a hot drink. It's a lovely hot, makes a really nice 2 good heaped spoonfuls of that in a cup of boiling water, and heaven. What was it? I forgot what the other one was. There was 3, wasn't there? Brown sauce, or there's 2 varieties, Daddy's or HP brown sauce, and that's again great with beef or meat, any meats, or just egg and chips. Just a little dab of brown sauce makes the difference.
Hopefully you've inspired someone to try something new.
Well, I would say try online, because you can get anything online, and it's worth the effort.
Hi there, this is Kath, and I'm on Andy's Treasure Trove too.
Many, many thanks to Kath and Peter for being fans of Andy's Treasure Trove, for actually contacting me to let me know that they enjoy the show, for sharing their London with me and my family, and for Peter's stories. You can see a photo of me giving them Andy's Treasure Trove t-shirts on andystreasuretrove.com. I hope that you'll make yourself known to me by reaching out to me via my website, by leaving a review of this podcast on iTunes, and by sharing Andy's Treasure Trove with your friends. In addition to the treasures that I share with you on this podcast, you are in Andy's Treasure Trove simply because you are a listener. I thank you very much, and I'll see you soon. Bye for now.